Yep, you probably didn't see this one coming. Now, during the times of just sitting around doing nothing in my house, I thought to myself, there was one game just sitting on my shelf that I never even touched. Well, I did, it's just I played it for like a half hour and then I never returned to it. Till now. A time of quarantine where I've got nothing better to do, I thought, you know what, why not play it now? And my god, I did not regret it. I think Ocarina of Time is probably one of the best games ever made. I wouldn't say it's the best game ever made, like some people say it is, but I would definitely say it's one of those games out there that are probably one of the best video games ever made or created, one of the best original stories. But I want to go more into detail to why I love this game. First thing I want to do is explain the story of the game, which I would actually say, or argue that I think Ocarina of Time is probably the best video game story of all time. It's very original, it doesn't use anything that hasn't been used before, no copyrighted characters, no previous stories reused in anything. No, this is an original story, and let me tell you why I think it's the best. Now, the game starts out kind of in a moody tone, like it's dark. They kind of describe the whole thing that's happening in the Kokiri Forest and what's happening in the land of Hyrule. And it does also explain that the narrator in this situation is known as the Great Deku Tree, who guards the Kokiri Forest, and also describes how there is one boy in the Kokiri Forest that does not have a fairy, which actually is destined to save the Hyrule, or you can even say the world. During this scene, you see Link asleep in his bed, and apparently he's dreaming about an event that hasn't even happened yet in his life. It's odd how his dream predicted the future, which is probably the next couple of days. Ironic enough, he doesn't even recognize these people because it hasn't even happened yet. But seeing this in a dream was probably enough to traumatize him, and I'm surprised he didn't wake up in the middle of the night screaming. Well, who knows, maybe he did, we just didn't see it, because we just saw him sleeping, and then it kind of just cuts straight into the morning, right where the Deku Tree is. With one of the fairies, of course, that live in the Kokiri Forest, known as Navi, which I would say is probably the most annoying companion you have in the Zelda series. She's frequently gonna say, hey, listen, all the time. It gets annoying, but you do get a pretty good cutscene out of it when you're introduced. You see this little funny scene of her flying around all over Kokiri Forest trying to figure out where's the hero of time, where's this boy, where's the hero of Hyrule. And while she's flying around, you could say she gets a good scenery of the place. And ironic enough, she has to look both ways to find a place and ends up bumping into this fence, which is pretty hilarious. But by the moment she gets past it, then she finds out where the hero of time's home is, inside this little treehouse here. Pretty convenient. I don't know why, but treehouses tend to be more of a boy thing from what I've noticed. I'm not saying that women don't hang out in treehouses, I'm just noticing it's mostly kind of a boy thing. And you see him asleep in his bed right there, apparently without a pillow. How does this kid sleep without a pillow? Yeah, you know what, I'm not gonna ask. But I like how the game starts with a joke, how Navi's gonna say that he's a lazy boy, but, you know, I don't know why apparently sleeping is considered lazy to some people. I mean, we all need sleep. But still, when Link wakes up, he finds the fairy Navi just flying around there occasionally. I'm surprised he didn't freak out. They introduce each other, Link walks out of his house, and gets some equipment and heads straight to the Great Deku Tree, finding out that there is a problem inside and that he has to fix. Now, to get over there, you kind of had to go through a little side quest to get rupees and the sword, but going through this dungeon is pretty easy. When you reach the boss, though, that's when the game actually starts getting a little bit more intense. And as I'm already explaining, I'm not going to explain what happens in every dungeon in detail. These are the main thing I'm probably going to skip the most of, because you don't really need to see the whole dungeon in the explanation, mainly just what happens and what's the point of coming here. The main reason you do this is mainly just to ease the pain of the Great Deku Tree's curse. I mean, you can't exactly save him, the curse is just permanent, he's going to be doomed eventually. More or less, he's asking for like a little bit of a painkiller, like get rid of this creature that's inside of me. That's most likely what he's saying, or at least that's what it sounded like. It didn't really seem that it would have made a difference whether I got that thing or not, but it was worth it in the end, because in the end, he does tell you the little story of who cursed him, and why he was cursed. Okay, now, in this explanation, the Great Deku Tree describes what exactly happened to him and how he was cursed. So apparently a while back, there was the King of Evil known as Ganondorf. pretty much the king of thieves, the guy from Gerudo Valley, tried to get the sacred stone from him, or I think it's the spiritual stone. Now, the fact is this, he needs 3 stones to go inside the Door of Time to get the Triforce. Of course, the Great Deku Tree refused to give it to such an evil man, so the Ganondorf pretty much just cursed him because he wouldn't give it to him. And that wasn't the only thing he cursed, but after he explains what happened to him, he also explains what the Triforce is. Those 3 golden goddesses you see on that triangle represents 3 pieces and 3 people, I'm gonna guess. There's Din, the goddess of power, which is Ganondorf's piece of the Triforce. Then you've got Nehru, the goddess of wisdom, the Triforce piece of Zelda. Then you've got 𝒕💧, I think, the goddess of courage, who represents Link. All those 3 pieces make the Triforce, and after he explains that, he gives you the spiritual stone from the forest. This is 1 out of 3 stones you're going to need to open the Door of Time and get the Master Sword. Now, this is just 1 down, and there are 2 other ones you're going to need. The other one is on Death Mountain, and the 3rd one is up the river with the Zoras. Now, before you can get to those 2 locations, the Great Deku Tree describes before you can get the stones, you need to talk to the one who rules Hyrule, or at least the Princess of Hyrule, known as Princess Zelda. Now, to get to her, you're gonna have to run across Hyrule, which is not too long, but on your way out, you run into Saria. Now, Saria, in my opinion, or at least in my eyes, I feel like Saria wasn't really a friend, but almost like a mother figure for Link, because, well, Link never really got to know his parents because, again, Link's mother was a nice Hylian mother while the dad was a Hylian knight. They obviously both died because of a war. Now, besides that point, before you leave, Saria gives you the Fairy Ocarina and asks that you would remember her when you play it. Now, after you earn this item, ironic enough is that you don't actually have this thing for that long, because after you get the next 2 stones, you're given the Ocarina of Time, and I don't really know what happens to the Fairy Ocarina. It kind of just vanishes from your inventory. We don't know if Link threw it away, or maybe it's in his pouch or something and he never uses it now. I mean, who knows, maybe he still has it, or maybe he doesn't. We don't really know. But still, when you reach Hyrule Field, it looks like a breath of fresh air. It looks like a giant world open to explore. But the only annoying thing is before you get a chance to run around Hyrule, somebody is going to show up from above and give you a little tidbit that doesn't really seem important in my opinion. He's one of the most annoying characters in this game. Good news is that he does not show up that often, mainly in the beginning, and he shows up I think 1 more time at the end of the game. That owl right there. I don't actually even know what its name is, but still, you'll run into this owl, I think a number of at least 4 or 5 times. It gets pretty annoying after the 3rd time, because in the original version of this game, you couldn't skip this dialogue, but if you've played this game before, you can easily just skip the dialogue by tapping the B button a bunch of times, but by the time you get the yes or no thing, make sure to click, well, if they want to hear the explanation again, you hit no. Or did you get anything I said? You'd say yes, because the game will trick you, because sometimes you think, oh, just say yes or no, or the same response from before, and the game will trick you and make you have to hear all the dang dialogue again. So when you get to the yes or no part, make sure you read it, because it can outsmart you and make you trick, or at least just trick you into reading again. But after Link travels through Hyrule, he heads to Castle Town, right before Hyrule Castle. He meets quite a lot of people, but I'm gonna skip that main part and just focus on him getting across, and mainly over to Hyrule Castle here. You'll see a lot of familiar faces, of course. You'll see a lot of these faces again in the next game. When you get to Hyrule Castle, there's a couple of things you have to do. You have to get a chicken to wake up the father, then you have to talk to the Lady Maloon, well, to get the item to begin with. Then you have to cross all these soldiers, which I'm just showing you. Then you reach Princess Zelda herself, and then you talk to her. And the fact is, ironic enough, get this, apparently she was also having a dream the same night Link was. Link was dreaming about the event of how she had to leave to get the Ocarina of Time left to Link, while she apparently was dreaming about the future of how Ganondorf is going to take over Hyrule and attempt to take over the world if he has the Triforce. Now, of course, she doesn't want this to happen, but she asks you questions just to clarify her dreams. So, after she explains that she wonders if you have that 1 stone that the story of her dream says, then she also explains her part of the Triforce story and explain what did the 3 parts of the Triforce do to contribute to the Earth itself. which is a better explanation of the Triforce than the Great Deku Tree did. Almost draws the question, why do you have to hear about the Triforce backstory twice? No, really, why do I have to hear this twice? Why couldn't Zelda just tell me this? Or why did he have to even tell me about the Triforce to begin with the Great Deku Tree? Couldn't have you just told me why he had the curse? Why did he have to tell me the Triforce part too? If Zelda was going to tell you the rest of it afterwards, it just felt kind of pointless. But otherwise, after she tells you her part of the story, it makes a lot more sense. Then she also asks you if you want to look outside the window. Say yes or no, you'll still look out the window and see that Ganondorf apparently is pledging allegiance to the kingdom. Either know that the guy is clearly evil. I mean, seriously, look at the look on the guy's face. He's clearly not on your side, guys. I mean, really, the soldiers are taking this seriously. I am pretty certain anyone who looks that kind of, what's the word, ominous, is probably not on your side. Even from how the guy sounds, I am pretty certain the guy is not on your side. Hyrule soldiers or Hyrule Castle, he's clearly evil. I don't know why they fell for this. But still, the fact how little kids noticed he was evil and the adults didn't is just another type of parents being dumb. But otherwise, of course, the father doesn't believe the dream she says, but of course Link pays attention to it. But otherwise, she fears that if he gets the Triforce and takes over Hyrule, things will go awry. And of course, Zelda asks for your help. And of course, you accept the offer, and she has to give you this little note so that way you can actually get to the next stone, which is up in Death Mountain, because when you reach Kokiri Village, technically you won't exactly be able to get over there because you're blocked by a gate and another soldier. The only way you can get across is if you have a little message or a little paper that Zelda is going to give you right here. Because again, remember you have this thing, because there are times that I actually got stuck right there and I didn't know what the heck I was trying to do. But of course, after making this deal with Zelda, yeah, she'll give you the letter and you'll be able to head over there. But there are two things that are going to happen first. One is supposed to happen as soon as you try to leave. The other one is something you actually need to know beforehand, because if you don't know this, you're going to miss something. Now, this part right here, you're meeting Impa, which is known as the Princess Protector, of course, like the little guardian. She plays this little lullaby that you need to learn from her, because apparently she was told that whoever comes here as the hero needs to learn this melody if he wants to save the rest of the world. She notices that you're courageous and tells you the melody, of course, which is known as Zelda's Lullaby, and it's pretty much aka the most song you're going to be playing through most of the game. It pretty much unlocks a lot of puzzles, it opens these waterfalls, it opens the fairy fountains, etc. You're going to be using it a lot. So after she tells you the notes, you're going to play it on your fairy ocarina here. Now either way, original or 3DS, this theme is pretty easy to remember. It's like something you won't forget. It's like something you would remember even if you were just thinking about it. You would remember what buttons you have to press, or just like how it sounds. It's like one of those really powerful melodies. I mean, it's not powerful in real life, but in the game it's magical notes that can actually unlock secrets, which is very, very fascinating in a way. But after you learn the theme, you pretty much keep it in a collection of themes that you have, either on your pause menu, or in the case of the 3DS, it's like a little menu of songs that you've played on the ocarina, which I think is a lot more useful than what the original N64 version did over what the 3DS did, making it a lot easier to the way you can actually play the notes while looking at it at the same time, unlike trying to remember the notes and then playing it on your own. Either way works, but still, that's just how it works. Now, after you learn the notes, Impa takes you out of the castle and straight back outside the castle town, because she knows that if the guards spot him there, he'll get in trouble. So I don't really know how she snuck him out. Maybe she jumped over the wall or did one of those little teleportation grenade packs of smoke that she uses. I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, but she also explains that she is actually from Kakariko Village, and explains that it's also the way to get to Death Mountain. She doesn't bring up that you need a Sahan, apparently, to help the one guy that's in Death Mountain that's gonna help you get the one stone and also the golden bracelet you're gonna need to lift rocks. She kind of just describes what's over there, what to expect, make sure to talk to people, yada yada yada. Yeah, I feel like most of the stuff she tells you here isn't very important, which is why I recommend skipping most of this dialogue, because it's not really helpful. I mean, first time playing the game, I wouldn't skip any of the dialogue, of course, but after you play it the first time, when you play it the second or third time, I'd skip the dialogue. So after she explains that, she kind of disappears with a smoke bomb. Then you're going to head straight to 𝒕𝒐𝒓𝒚, back to the forest, and she teaches you 𝒕𝒐𝒓𝒚's song. Now, it's probably the most catchiest thing you'll hear in the game, or at least in my opinion it is. But after you learn this song, you're going to have to use it on one of those Gorons if you want to dance, and of course this whole depression thing will go away. I guess that makes sense. But still, I really wish the game could have told me that I had to come back here, because it's almost like something you had to figure out yourself. Like, why didn't Navi point out that maybe you had to come back to Kokiri Forest if you want to learn a song to help you get past her? But yeah, after you get the song, now you play it to the Goron Master, or General, or I'm not really sure what they usually call him. But still, after you play this, he starts going into dance for like the next 30 seconds, which I obviously am not going to show the whole thing. I'm just going to cut ahead at the end in just a moment here. I mean, it's kind of amazing how much this one thing was enough to get him to feel happy. But yeah, after he explains the huge problem he was having, they're mainly upset because of some sort of blockage, and it's preventing them from eating rocks, and now there's a shortage, and now it's getting them really annoyed and depressed. But if you fix the General's depression, now you've got to fix their big problem, which is why they're being blocked off. Of course, it's another curse from Ganondorf, because again, they refuse to give him the stone. And he also points out that he can't give us the stone unless we fix his problem. If we fix his problem, we get the stone, but until then he gives us the golden bracelet, so that way we can lift the bomb plants. And before we can get the actual bombs, we technically need to go inside Dongero Cavern. And Dongero Cavern, one of those chests will give you a bomb bag that already has, I think, a total of 30 or 20 bombs. I don't know how many you have exactly when you start, but after you blow up the entrance, you head straight in. And I'm going to cut the explanation from here because, I don't know, the explanation of the story was taking a lot longer than I thought it would. So I'm going to have to cut this to a part 2. Now, I'm not going to make you guys wait until next week for a part 2. I'm going to try to upload it as soon as possible, so stay tuned. My next video should be in the next 2 or 3 days, maybe sooner. We'll see how it goes. But anyways, see you guys.